At the Myers-Briggs Company, we've reached out to a variety of experts in the field to provide complimentary webinars for both our college partners and any institution of higher education. Today's topic will focus on student success teams, from in-person to virtual, and we're happy to partner with Dr. Al Solano to deliver this webinar. Dr. Al Solano is a coach and founder of the Continuous Learning Institute. A big believer in kindness, he helps institutions of higher education to plan and implement homegrown practices that get results for students by coaching them through a process based on what he calls the 3 C's: clarity, coherence, and consensus. In addition, his bite-sized practitioner-based articles on student success strategies, institutional planning and implementation, and educational leadership are implemented at institutions across the country. He has worked directly with over 40 colleges and universities and has trained well over 5,000 educators. He has coached colleges for over a decade, worked at 2 community colleges, and began his education career in K-12. And with that, take it away, Al.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. I wish I was presenting this webinar in less chaotic and uncertain times. The current crisis has caused colleges to rapidly make the transition to online. And I know firsthand from coaching colleges to make this transition how incredibly hard they're working to continue to provide services and instruction to students. However, transition is one thing, quality is another. How colleges provide quality services and instruction in a virtual environment is a student success and equity issue. Therefore, the purpose of this webinar is to help you think about virtual student success teams and their role in supporting students, especially during these challenging times. So our outcomes for this webinar are to understand the basic definition and possible configurations of student success teams, to understand how to take the basic functions of student success teams and apply them to your institutional context in a virtual environment. So what are student success teams? Well, generally speaking, it's a team of academic and student services people that collaborate to plan and implement data-informed, equity-infused practices along the student journey. So if we think about the student journey using the guided pathways framework, student success teams in collaboration with institutional stakeholders, because these teams will not work in isolation, help to support students along their journey. Each student journey points has data points. It's these data points, everything from enrollment figures to success rates and gateway courses to persistence and completion rates, all disaggregated to address equity that student success teams respond to. I will touch later on why in Ensure Learning, colleges need to focus on quality online instruction. So let me give you an example. At Bakersfield College in California, they have a comprehensive support system, student teams for each meta major, and they call them completion coaching communities. The meta majors are a collection of programs that are brought together. And as you can see there, they have in arts and humanities and communication, a business and education, health services, industrial and transportation technology, public safety, social and behavioral sciences, STEM, and they have one for career exploration. Now, the community is made up of at least one of each of the red circle function roles, creating multifunctional communities to consider and care for students within their group. How many students do these teams care for? Well, at Bakersfield, they view it as everyone in the college, and FTIC, what they call first time in college. So what are some basic characteristics of this team? Well, each team is assigned per meta major. Some team members serve across meta majors. Teams meet biweekly, and teams engage in data-informed inquiry. Now, it's important to note that what works for this college may not work for your institution. I just wanted to show you their basic configuration and characteristics without getting into the weeds. The nuances at this institution may be entirely different from yours. Nonetheless, if you want to learn more, please visit my website, Continuous Learning Institute. And when you go to the blog, you'll see at the far right a guided pathways resources. From there, I have an in-depth Q&A with Bakersfield College on how they launched their teams. So in addition to that, you'll see that there are a lot of other resources related to guided pathways. However, while it's beneficial to have a college to point to that has increased student success, one model does not fit all. Each college really needs to go through a process of discover and develop before implementing student success teams. So I want to provide another example of a college that is in the process of launching their student success teams. To give you more context, this particular institution is highly fiscally conservative. Bakersfield, for example, invests in data coaches. Data coaches are actually faculty. They give them a little bit of reassigned time for them to work with institutional research to bring in data into these team settings. And it is an additional cost. But at this particular college that I'm showing you here, this configuration, they'll be leveraging their student services and academic affairs leaders to take on that data coaching role. At this college, they call their meta majors career and academic pathways, or CAPS. They have a student services dean or director and one academic dean, and these people may participate in more than one CAP. I understand that not every state has a counselor and or a career counselor role. Sometimes the title could be interchangeable with advisor. And of course, instructional faculty, depending on the meta major or CAP, it could be more than one per meta major. Then they also have here a student services staff. This particular campus has several mentor and peer-like roles. So as I mentioned, one size doesn't fit all. Each campus will need to think about how their student success teams will look like and function. Now, eventually, a college will need to articulate the roles of each member. I created this slide here, this template for this particular college as they go through their configuration process. It's important to provide a visual of the team configuration with key questions. It's worth noting that as educators, we create all sorts of committees and work groups and task forces. What we hardly ever take stock of, though, is who's actually going to be the doer versus an inputter. Inputters, they can improve the quality of the work, but doers actually do the work. Ideally, everyone in a student success team should be a doer, but perhaps there are reasons to have people on the team who will be strictly inputters. You'll need to decide. Remember that an imbalance of doers versus inputters, especially when 10 to 20% of the team are doers, can create burnout and resentment. Now, in terms of timing, here's a timeline for this college's student success team rollout. They decided to roll out student success teams this spring. It's important to define rollout, though. Rollout is an opportunity to provide training and have them begin to norm before we expect them to perform at an optimal level. Each college is nuanced. People are nuanced. It's key to give these teams trainings and the opportunity to meet short-term goals to help them learn how to operate and create a plan for the fall goals and priorities. Now, this college plans to roll out the rest of the student success teams in the fall, having had the experience of doing a soft launch, if you will, with 2 in the spring. Now, keep in mind that there are some campuses that are launching all student success teams at once. It's up to your campus to decide how to best launch the teams. Now, what are they doing as they're norming? Well, data analysis. They're looking at, well, what data? What are we looking at, and how will it be communicated? And how will it be acted upon? Communication, how the team would best communicate with students within a CAP, given existing campus-wide communication and mechanisms and processes that are already taking place. And the third one, very important, what are then the possible intervention or homegrown practices to implement? Now, I don't normally like to read word for word a slide that's got a lot of text, but this time's important because as you do consider student success teams, these are really important questions to answer. Who needs to be on each team and why? Are there any costs, or will the team be entirely time resource allocated? Where will the teams reside? Within a division, within a meta major, within an existing school? What will be their purpose? What kind of training will they receive? What's the agenda for the kickoff for student success teams? How much time will they be given to norm? How often will they meet and for how long? Who would be the lead or co-leads? How often would the leads or co-leads of all teams meet? Will the teams serve as inquiry teams and or student support teams? Related question, what data will they analyze and why? Will there be a data coach? Will a few teams get started first, or will the campus scale all at once? And what's the relationship between student success teams and the shared governance or committee structure? And how will equity be infused via these teams? And what else? What other questions can you come up with? So now that you've had a sense of an operating student success team from Bakersfield and the experience of one college presently working to roll out student success teams, let's shift to virtual student success teams. Well, I've spent a significant amount of my time coaching at campuses. Most of my work has been virtual for the past 11 years. Bringing a group of educators in a virtual setting requires some basic principles for ensuring productive online meetings. So it's worth going over them. They include prepare the tech in advance. How often have you hopped on to a meeting only having to wait because the host wasn't there yet, or the mic wasn't working, or the internet connection was perhaps saturated, or the headphones weren't working? So be there about 5 minutes early to prepare the tech. Share the agenda and links and documents in advance. Sometimes screen sharing doesn't work, or participants have trouble seeing the documents, so providing the content ahead of time allows participants to continue to follow along. Have a clean and distraction-free background. I know it's kind of funny now with everybody, remote. You kind of hear the dogs in the background, the kids in the background. That's funny and it's sweet often, but over time, it really is a distraction when you're trying to have a productive meeting. And appoint a facilitator. It's really important to have a facilitator to keep track. Be there to make sure to clarify any kind of miscommunication. And last but not least, conclude with some clear action items. This is perhaps the most important. The facilitator really needs to write the action items for each of the agenda points and secure consensus from the participants. Once action items are identified, assign them to the appropriate individual or individuals and agree on a deadline, and then share the meeting notes as soon as possible. I wanted to go back to the focus on ensure learning. This is about ensuring quality online instruction. As colleges transition and remain online, possibly for another academic year, it's really important that they remember, where do students spend most of their time? When they're on campus, or now when it's virtual, in the classroom. Therefore, there needs to be a distance education / teaching and learning team that supports each of the student success teams. Without this deep connection and collaboration, student success teams become student services heavy or exclusively student services. If you look at the data, strategy might be, go see a counselor, or go see an advisor, or go to online tutoring. But again, I want to reiterate, where do students spend most of their time? It's in the classroom, in person or virtual. So there may be a need in the classroom that faculty, they need to just up their game in terms of their pedagogy. So if they have fellow faculty members who, for example, have a lot of experience with Canvas, with other technologies, on pedagogical practices, there's a team there ready for them to support them with their work. So the next thing I want to do is take you through what kind of inquiry a student success team will go through, and I call these short bursts of inquiry. So step number one is that a student success team will identify student needs. They identify and clarify specific needs as students transition to online and continue their learning online. Most of the information will be garnered from faculty, frontline student services professionals, institutional research, and of course, students. Step number two, we choose the strategies. This is where the team brainstorms ideas. It's best that the team set the direction based on a simple majority consensus. Unanimous consent's really tough to get 100%. Let's just shoot for a majority consensus. Step 3 is that we draft an implementation plan, and I'm not talking here, a 20, 30 pager. I'm just saying here, 1 to 3 pager that could be uploaded to a virtual platform, such as Google Docs, where they answer the following questions. What are the strategies? How will they be implemented? Who will be responsible for implementing them? What's the timeline? How will we gauge that they're working? Step 4, implement the strategies. And then step 5 is where we report back and make adjustments if necessary. The team is informed and provides ongoing input and recommends necessary adjustments, and they keep a record of the strategy updates. This, to me, is really the future of colleges. When they develop their meta majors, or perhaps they're not going to do that, they're going to keep their divisions or schools. At this particular campus, these are just acronyms. In education, we put everything into an acronym for their different CAPs, the different career and academic pathways. Each of these will have a student success team. And as you can see, there's a teaching and learning team that orbits the student success teams and their meta majors. And in fact, there should be a teaching and learning team member embedded into each of the student success teams, so that, again, the work doesn't become student services heavy. And of course, each of these teams has a lead or co-lead, and they come together as a team. So they're continually working on what I like to call the 3 C's: clarity, coherence, and consensus. So quick recap. I just wanted to give you a basic definition and understanding of student success teams configurations. And then I wanted you to understand how to take these basic functions of student success teams and see how you might apply them for your institutional context, especially in a virtual environment. For more information on student success teams, please make sure to visit the Continuous Learning Institute website. I have additional resources in institutional planning and implementations, student success strategies, educational leadership. That's me in my casual Zoom attire. If you have any questions about student success teams or any other topics covered on the Continuous Learning Institute website, please feel free to contact me at al@continuous-learner.com. Thank you so much for your time.